Imagine Abraham learning that the sign that is to be inscribed in his flesh, God says, hey, see that sharp rock over there? Now I'm going to tell you what to do with it. See that little extra bit of skin at the end of your loins? Cut it off. The Lord is going right where it hurts. And not just you, Abraham, but all your male descendants. And this will be the sign of the covenant. Well, circumcision is an issue that most men are not all that comfortable talking about, and most people of faith, sadly, are not all that comfortable talking about. And it is true enough that in the New Testament, it was settled in the early church, physical circumcision is not required for Christian believers. Right. But what is required is to understand why physical circumcision was so essential to the Old Testament, because only then can you understand what circumcision of heart is, because we're back to the principle of theology of the body. Only the body and only the body is capable of revealing the spiritual mystery, right? So physical circumcision. We got to talk about physical circumcision to understand the spiritual mystery of circumcision of heart.
Yeah.
So all in 5 minutes or less.
This is going to be good.
Abraham is offered the covenant promise of fertility, right? Offspring more numerous than the stars.
Right. Sands on the...
Count the sands on the beach, count the stars in the heavens if you can. So will your offspring be. So that's the promise. That's the covenant promise. And then God says to Abraham, I want to inscribe a sign of this covenant in your flesh. And you might put yourself in Abraham's sandals and think, okay, God, what do you have in mind? Like, tattoo on the shoulder, a bone through the nose.
Jesus on the back.
Jesus on the back. What do you have in mind here? Well, Jesus wasn't incarnate yet, but yeah, what do you want to put on my, whatever. But no, imagine Abraham learning that the sign that is to be inscribed in his flesh, God says, hey, see that sharp rock over there? Now I'm going to tell you what to do with it.
Yeah.
See that little extra bit of skin at the end of your loins? Cut it off.
It's a tender spot.
Cut it off. This is the tender place. The Lord is going right where it hurts. And not just you, Abraham, but all your male descendants. And this will be the sign of the covenant. Signs are only signs if you see them.
Yeah.
It's no sign if you can't see it. Right? Yeah. So who's going to see this sign and when?
Yeah. Right.
Any thoughts? Who's going to see it and when?
The spouse.
There you go. The spouse
on the
wedding night is going to see this sign. And what is it a sign of? Now, these are my own personal musings from trying to pray into this and understand. I can't say that I'm drawing from such and such a biblical scholar here or Saint so-and-so, although certainly there are saints that say somewhat similar things. But it seems to me what God is trying to tell Abraham is something the woman already knows. That to participate in this covenant love, this covenant promise, offspring, 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 it's going to demand the sacrifice of flesh and the shedding of blood right where it hurts. The woman bleeds every month in relation to this whole mystery. She knows just because it's inherent in bearing a child, this is going to demand the sacrifice of your flesh and blood. The man, on the other hand, can have his pleasure and go his merry way. Bye-bye. And this is the ancient problem in the male-female relationship, right? The man has his pleasure, is tempted to have his pleasure and say bye, and leave the woman. Number one profile of poverty in the world, just for one example of the problems that this causes. Number one profile of people in poverty, single mothers and their children. What is the problem? What the Bible calls uncircumcision of heart. That's the problem. And what is uncircumcision of heart? It's a heart that's closed, right? If your heart is uncircumcised, look at the physical circumcision. What is God saying? I want you to, you've been covering yourself with fig leaves and aprons and clothes. Okay, I want you to remove even the most natural covering to your most intimate place. Because if you want to image my covenant love, if you want to be a sign of my fatherhood in this world, right? And that's where we get the word testicles, by the way. Testicles shares the same root as words like testify and testimony and testament, right? The purpose of the male.
I'm learning things today that I didn't know I was going to learn.
You didn't know you were going to learn. And all because we were talking about Flannery O'Connor, and you told me to link it with theology of the body. But I'm pretty darn convinced.
I dared you.
Manly Pointer.
Yeah, okay.
Manly Pointer is one of Flannery O'Connor's characters. What does manliness point to? It points to the eternal fatherhood of God, right? We have testicles to testify to the eternal fatherhood of God. This is the theology of a man's
That's amazing.
body, right? But when he plants his seed and goes his merry way and isn't involved in loving that woman he impregnated and isn't involved in raising the children that came from his seed, he is not imaging the love of the Father. If you're going to image the love of the Father, if you're going to participate in my covenant love, it's going to demand the sacrifice of flesh and the shedding of blood right where it hurts. But what he's really after is the heart of the man. And the way you get to the heart of the man is through his loins. God knows this is basic math for what a male is. The way you get to his heart is through his loins.
Yeah.
What he's really after and what comes out in the New Testament is the circumcision of the heart.
Yeah.
And what a circumcised heart is a heart that is open and exposed to the merciful love of God. Husbands, love your wives. How? As Christ loved the church. You can't do that with an uncircumcised heart. An uncircumcised heart is a heart that's covered over, closed off, not open, not exposed. Circumcised heart is one that is exposed. All the wheat and all the weeds, all the sewage of your soul is open to the merciful love of God. And that's what enables you to become a pure gift to your bride.